Hello, Ralph. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview. We are interested in hearing more about the Resistible rise of Arturo Oi. When is that happening?
October 10th to the 14th.
Where is the Resistible rise going to happen? Like, what stage at UWM?
It is scheduled to be performed on the Mainstage Theatre.
Okay.
And our latest news is that we had requested the ability to stream, but we've been denied that by the holders of the copyright. So this is going in front of a live audience in one way, shape, or form.
Tell us a little bit about the script. Why did you choose this particular version of the script?
Yeah, there's multiple adaptations of it. The Resistible, and I'll stress it, the Resistible Rise of Arturo Ui is a piece written by Bertolt Brecht in the 1930s. And it is his attempt to chronicle the rise to power of Adolf Hitler. And he was a refugee at that time, escaping the Nazis. The adaptation that we're using, which is an adaptation by Bruce Norris, without giving too many plot points away or plot spoilers, you look at a sort of an Al Capone figure in a very sort of abstracted form, dealing with vegetables and vegetable markets and cauliflowers, but with the genuine undertones of the ugly world of those times, and seeing the corruption of the gangster world to be a corollary to how political power is gained inside a Western unbridled capitalist system. Now, almost all Brecht's work has this historical attribute, historical undertone to it, because Brecht believed that by setting things back in time, we are forced to look at things in a more objective manner. In the last 10, 15 years, obviously there's been dictators in power throughout history, but we've seen a very definite trend within governments pretty much worldwide. So Norris has identified that. He specifically refers to, but fairly generally refers to the rise to power of Donald Trump in America. It's not a Trump bashing piece, but it does use a lot of references towards the contemporary situation in America.
With like the timing of the show and kind of the content of the show, could you kind of speak a little bit about that?
Why it's perfectly timed and perfectly situated. So this is a positive piece. It shows ultimately that, through a democratic process, things can change for the better. I grew up in a very politically charged time, and I grew up in England in a very politically charged climate. But it's obviously, been quite noteworthy to watch successive generations move away from the political process, and not surprisingly so. There was a bumper sticker at one point that said it doesn't matter who you vote for, the government always gets in. And that seems, to be reflective of a mindset that has driven people away from the polls. But what we're seeing today, this weekend and the third week of June in 2020, is people lining up for 7 or 8 hours to vote in person in a place where they've been consciously pushed away from their ability to vote, and they're fighting back with that vote, which is the most critical thing that they can do at this time.
What are you hoping the audience takes away from the show, I guess?
First and foremost, I think it's important that we realize this is being done within the context of a university with people who are studying theatre or music or theatre and music. And so there are curricular outcomes for this, and I think the most important thing is to either be immersed in Brecht's work or to have experience of Brecht's work by seeing it being performed. When I was much younger, I used to have very clear ideas about what I wanted about that. One thing I have learned over the years is you actually have no control over that whatsoever. Meaning is constructed in a strange ethereal point somewhere in the middle of the process. So what the audience takes from it in terms of meaning is one thing, and what they, are we able to change a person by their experiences inside theatre? I believe so. I think 40 years ago, I thought, theatre was the beginning of could be the beginnings of revolution. I think now it might make a good accompanying part to a revolution, or part of a revolution. But I still think theatre is an incredibly powerful social force. It is incredibly resilient. I had the opportunity maybe in the late 80s to be up near Seattle. It was after Mount St. Helens had erupted a few years earlier, and I got up close to the top of the volcano before the road was closed out. But you could see then, it looked like a barren moonscape, except in the odd few places there were these little pieces of trees starting to come back. A pine cone had sprouted, and you could see nature starting to reclaim, life on this really barren, sort of pumice stone landscape as far as you could see. And I think, as we come out of COVID-19, we're going to start to see theatre doing that. We're going to start to see it popping up and repopulating itself. And we're going to see it in a new way, and it's going to have more social relevance than ever before. Shift, and now I think we're going to see a much bigger and broader shift. We're going to see a lot of new voices. And I think by necessity we will see a change in the way theatre is created. At present, we're still 2 months away from rehearsals, or 6 weeks. I'm still not too sure how we're going to create this piece. But it will be an exciting and wonderful journey to go on.
So I'm told that as a director, you have a very unique approach to the beginning of a rehearsal process. What do you think that might look like for this particular production?
I'm an organic director. I even with a compressed time frame for this piece, I'm resisting the urge to do the big prompt book. So walking in and knowing exactly how it goes, because then we relegate actors to somewhat to the role of a marionette. And to me, the joy of working in theatre is to work with a group of creative artists, and I tend to work with young artists, and empower them to feel free to create truth for themselves on stage in relationship to their setting, but in relationship to the other people on stage. And I see my role as a shaper and an editor. Not as a didactic, this is how it's going to be. My roots stem from improvisation. In my development over the years has really led me towards looking at physical theatre as a foundation for the creation of work. My original training was at Bretton Hall College of Education in the north of England, a very unique and special place. And I trained under John Hodgson. He was my mentor at that time. And he was one of the leading exponents of the use of improvisation inside the studio, but also inside schools as a foundation for educational theatre. So, that was put into my being from a very early age. And to be honest, I started when I was about 14, working in drama centers, which had already felt the effects of improvisation as a foundation for work. So that stayed with me. That's important to me. Obviously, we're serving the text, and we're serving specifically the purpose of Brecht's work here. Brecht himself was, in his writings, talked about the gestus of theatre, which the physical picture, the physical motion of the actor. We'll have time to sort of dip our toes in that water and see what that means, but we will be creating a style for this piece that will be unique for this production. So that will stem from physical work. So what you finish up with is a product which is greater than the sum of its parts, which I think is the beauty of theatre.
Ralph, are you going to be using puppetry in this production?
Keep cycling back to puppetry. Originally, I had really wanted to use puppets, large-scale puppets. It's something that in my own work I keep coming back to. It's one thing to make puppets, but it's another thing then to work with a company to be able to use them effectively.
Yeah.
But stay tuned. Puppets will appear on something I'm doing soon.
I like that, a little teaser for getting people to come back.
Yeah, I have built huge puppets. I mean, one summer I was working in Stevens Point with a group of young people, and we made this puppet that was like 25 feet tall, and we strung it from over the courtyard and had it walking and dancing around, and had it working with a dancer doing. The dancer was connected via ropes and pulleys, so that every time the dancer moved, the puppet moved. And
what'd you guys make it out of? Was it just like paper bags or
bits of scrap wood, articulated joints, and then some fabric to make clothes, and big paper mache head. This is probably 20 years ago. I have no clue really. It was fun. Actually, if you look carefully at the picture, there's a puppet hanging on my door. So right in the back there, it's a big blue puppet.
Right now. Oh. Wait, what is that one from, though?
He's going to get it.
Oh, are we getting a show right now? Oh, I'm honored.
Look, here's my puppet.
Why are you color coordinating with him?
There you go. So, I keep cycling back to it. I have a fascination with puppets and with circus. There's always a circus motif playing around in my head somewhere, and I think that may come through. We are working with with two young composers to create original music for this piece through a surf grant. One of the things I've thrown at them is the idea of circus music as well as 1920s German cabaret, and so I've thrown a lot of motifs at them. So, we'll see what percolates out of the system here.
Are these young composers UWM students or?
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Awesome. Like in the music program?
They are.
Nice. That's awesome.
If you gave me 2 minutes, I'll find Shayla and Zach.
I am curious. Thinking back to when you were in school, what advice do you have for theater majors now?
I was fortunate enough to go to a very, very special place. What I learned there was more about myself than necessarily about my career. But I think throughout my career, what I've learned, if you want advice for young art makers, it is to make art, and get up in the morning and make art, and make sure that's what you do in some way, shape, or form during the day, all day. If you're cooking lunch, make it art. Pizza is an art form. making it and eating it. I think what's freeing is to think of yourself first and foremost as an artist and as a working artist, which you both are. To allow yourself to get pigeonholed into this is, I'm an actor or I'm a director or I'm a designer is extremely limiting.
Is there anything else you would like to tell us about, just kind of leave us with in the show?
The original intention, pre-COVID-19, was to have an interpreter on stage with each individual actor interpreting for them, for the audience. We don't know yet whether that's possible or not, or how that's going to go, but nevertheless we still have a very, very large company, if you include actors, interpreters, and all of the production crew that will be associated with it. So we're trying to work on how much physical space they need to be safe, and then how do we do this for an audience to keep the audience in a safe environment as well.
Got one more question before we finish up. What have
I don't have anything for a while.
What have you as an artist taken away from everything that's happened with like COVID and as a director, and what's like a positive or a negative, or what's something you've learned or a new skill set you've learned from this?
Well, I've certainly watched a lot of theatre online that I probably wouldn't have done before, and having had the opportunity to dig into some archives from some great companies, I've seen some pieces, and I'm very grateful for that. I've certainly had a lot of time inside my own head, which sometimes is useful. It's been useful in terms of textual work and thinking about this play. Sometimes that's not a good thing because I'm a doer. I need to be making and doing. I'm somewhat antisocial. I liked my own company or whatever, but I also need to be around people. I need to be around young people. That's where I get my energy from, if I have any energy. And that I'm missing. I'm missing seeing you guys and everybody else. So I have a lot of sympathy for your generation. You're young. You're at that point where you're just ready to explode into the world, and there's a moving target, and it's really hard for you to work out where it's at, and how to react to it, and the only way that you can do that is, and it's not a bad thing necessarily, is honing your ability to adapt quickly to changing environments. But this is a rotten set of circumstances to learn that set of skills with. I'm very pleased that the level of social protest is as high as it is. I think that's great. I think that's an engaging thing. To see the shape and form that's in, I think that's amazing. And on a global scale. So obviously there is the potential right now for fundamental social reform, which is something that I've ascribed to all of my life, and maybe this is it. So maybe I'll get to see it.
Well, thank you so much, Ralph, for joining us. We really appreciated listening and having a conversation with you and everything. Yeah, we appreciate it. What days is Arturo scheduled for?
October 10th through the 14th. 7:30 during the week and Saturday, and 2:00 matinee on Sunday.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, sounds going to be an exciting show.
It will be rock and roll.
Rock and roll.
It will be a very dynamic piece. There are a lot of great young artists contributing to this piece, and it will be a wonderful production.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, thank you so much, Ralph. We really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, good talking with you.